with Bay. I am Bay, and this is Bay. Say hi, Bay.
Hi, Bay.
And today we are talking about Spirit Bound, the fifth book in Vampire Academy, and it's still sad,
Yes.
and I'm still sad.
It's
Everybody's
a whole
still
lot of
sad.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't cry as much in this book. I think I'm just out of cry. Like,
There's no more tears to be had.
well, also, I was more just annoyed, not at the book, but like the situation, like with Rose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was like,
Rose didn't get teary. She got angry and annoyed.
and so I was mad with her.
Yes.
Which is good. You should, like, that's how you should feel for your, like, you know, if that's like the goal.
Yeah, you're supposed to be taking the ride with the protagonist, especially when it's first person.
Yeah, and I was definitely taking the ride with her in this because I was just like, no, I'm mad. Like, especially, and we'll get to it, but real quick, like towards the end, like when all of that was happening with Lissa, like I was mad at Lissa.
Yeah. Which, like, I like, and logically, Rose would understand, but she doesn't give a fuck. So, and that's where I'm at too. Like, I get it.
Like, I get it, but I don't care because, like, first and foremost, Lissa, you're Rose's best friend, you fucking asshole. Like, that's where I'm at. Because I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you doing this?
Why am I such a ghost?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Okay, that's a bit better, I think. Wait, no. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I even turned the brightness down and everything. There's just a light right there shining right on me.
It's just going to be like this.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That's the other series, Maggie.
But, I mean, Spirit is in this. This has elemental magic too, but it's not, you know. When Lissa works magic, she just draws it to her mentally. She doesn't spirit come to me.
Yeah.
I am shiny. Okay.
But
one thing I found, and it gets me every time I read this series, this book, the plot format is very different to what you expect. You expect the climax to be what ended up happening about 2/3 of the way through the book.
Yes, you do.
You expect that to be the climax.
And then you're like, so now what? And then it's like, oh my God.
Like, and like the majority of the last third of this book feels like it should be the first third or the first quarter of a new book, but the next book, it makes sense when you read the next book why it's done this way.
But it also works.
Yeah.
You know, like the other thing is that it works. Like it's done well enough that it works. And also in a series, you can get away with shit like that.
Yeah.
Assuming the books are well written and assuming that you time the cliffhanger well enough, you can pretty much get away with anything.
Especially when it's, you know, the last, like I love how the book ends. It's just they execute them and then it just ends.
Ma'am.
Now, one thing with this book is, because I've told you there's two plot continuity errors in the combined two series that I can think of. This book has the lead up to the first one. It doesn't actually happen until the next book, though, but it's referenced a few times in this. Where the reason Rose could see Mason's ghost, while she was at school was because the Mana were meeting each time she saw him, and they were fucking with the wards. No one's fucking with the wards, but she keeps on mentioning, I wonder if I let my defenses down, will I see, spoiler alert, Tatiana, the queen, dead, ghost person, while she's in court. She wouldn't be able to do that. because of the wards. The wards keep the ghosts out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because even in the third book, when she decided, like when she's like, no, I have to go talk to Mason and see where the Strigoi are, like where they're hiding, so we can go rescue everyone. She had to go outside the school grounds to talk to her.
Yeah, to do it.
Yep. So, and then in the next book, she does end up lowering her defenses and communicating with Tatiana's ghost in the first or second chapter of the next book. So that's continuity error number 1. So, but
it gets fixed, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing with this as well is it's not an epically major, like, if she didn't communicate, like if there wasn't the references to her lowering her defenses and if she didn't communicate with Tatiana in the next book, the story would remain exactly the same. That's one thing that I don't mind too much, whereas in House of Night it's just error after error after error that change the plot of the story half the time.
Yeah, and like I said, the errors like that are forgivable because it's like there's just so much to, it just is what it is. And
she did a whoop. She forgot that
happens.
The wards blocked ghosts.
Yeah.
Because Rose has also built her defenses up, so it's not like as soon as she leaves watered ground, now she's bombarded by ghosts. She doesn't struggle with it anymore. So it's not like it's changing the entire plot anyway.
Right, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we should get into plot.
Yes, plot. So Rose is prepping for her final physical exam thing to graduate school.
Yep.
Fuck, so much happened in this book. For a second there, I'm like, where the fuck does this book start?
I know. I was like, wait, I don't remember where this book starts.
Yeah, so she's about to graduate from high school. So she has her, what are they even called again? Her trials, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what they call them.
Yeah. And at first, Lissa's giving her a pep talk at the beginning. Dimitri has sent her, because Dimitri's a Strigoi, in case anyone has forgotten. And the last book ended with him sending her a letter saying, "Lols, you didn't kill me. I'm coming for you now, bitch. But I still love you."
Yeah.
And apparently he's been sending he's been sending her letters now, I think weekly or something. And this one was like, "You've got your trials today. I'll see you soon. Wink."
And what's really annoying is that by the end of this book, you like Strigoi Dimitri so much better than normal Dimitri.
He does come back though. Normal Dimitri comes back.
I know, but I'm like, bring Strigoi Dimitri back at least.
He's got sass to him. He's got some wit.
Yeah.
So yeah, and before Rose's trials, like in the prep area, I guess, she's all sad, and because Dimitri should have been there, pep talking her, and he's not because he's Strigoi. But then random mum appears.
Yeah, it was nice.
It's nice that they're finally getting a relationship.
Yeah, I like it.
And Rose is dating Adrian now, and she looks out to the crowd, and Abe is there.
Next to Adrian. Yep.
I just love how Rose is like, he's a bad influence, and her mom's like, I'm sure Adrian's not going to influence Abe too bad. She's like, no.
The other way around, you idiot.
Honestly, I completely am Team Rose when it comes to how much she cringes every time her father interacts with someone of the opposite sex who he's not related to. In the span of one party, he hit on like 50 women.
Yep.
Including her mama, and they're having like flashbacks to like when they banged. And she's like, "Can you not? I don't want a sibling, please." I'm cool being an only child.
It's a lot.
But yeah, so Rose does her trials. She gets a much tougher trial than anyone else, which she finds out later because, you know, she's been out in the real world killing God knows how many Strigoi. So they toughed hers up for her, but she got the highest mark in the class. They graduate. They get their graduation tattoos. And then they're off. Oh, Lissa and Christian are still broken up.
Yeah.
On the last book as well. And then they all head off to court because that's what newly graduated guardians do. They go to court and wait for their assignments, I guess. Adrian tags along because what else is he going to do? Christian and Lissa go to court too. Lissa because she has to. Christian because he's like, well, what else am I going to do as well? Yeah. And before they leave though, Rose is like, Rose is talking to Abe and he mentions something about the prison Victor is in, and Rose manages to get the name of the prison out of Abe. So then because their quest, I guess, this book is to learn how to unstrigoi a person.
You're like, right. Like you think that that's what it's going to be, but it was like, but it was like half of the last book. So it makes sense that it doesn't take up this entire book.
Yeah. So, when they get to court, they speak to Mia and make plans to meet up with her. She's going to help sneak them into the record room. She doesn't know why, but she's like, look, Rose, you and I, we almost died together, so like I'll do this for you type thing.
Yeah.
And then Rose goes and has dinner with Adrian's family, his parents.
Which is one of the best scenes in the book. By far.
Yeah, his dad's just like, why the fuck is a Dampier here? And his mother is like actually chill with it. But we find out later that's just because she's like, look, this ain't gonna last, so like let him have his fun.
Yeah. She's like, well, he's gonna die anyway. Who gives a fuck? And it's like, oh shit.
And like, yeah, when when Rose is like, why are you cool with this? She's like, well, do you plan on being with Adrian forever? And Rose is like, how dare? Well, no, but and she's like, exactly. So,
bless you.
Why start an argument with my son over something that's not going to last? We both know he's going to marry a Moreau girl. Like, and Rose is like, yeah, fair.
She's like, we both know that you're a piece of shit. So I don't understand what the problem is. And it's like, already then.
You're making me go now. Fuck you.
Sorry. I'm sorry. You do.
It's okay. So then the Queen randomly, because she's Adrian's great aunt, she just pops by and Rose is like, oh fuck, this is gonna start an argument, and she's just like, oh Rose, you're here. I suppose you're the reason why Adrian's no longer smoking. Well done, you. And Rose is like, what the fuck just happened? Like half this book is Rose just being confused by the Queen. But no, it was an enjoyable scene though. It was nice to meet Adrian's parents finally. And then they go and break in and steal the prison records, and fuck this. It all happens pretty quick, I think. Like it happens within the next couple days. She drags Eddie into it, and then she randomly meets a new character, Mikhail, who has been mentioned before. He was the lover of the teacher, the spirit-wielding teacher that turned Strigoi that got mentioned in the first book. And he's just like, cool. Well, I'll help you because I still love Sonia, so let's do this. And so he sneaks them out of court, and they go to Alaska and break into a prison and break Victor Dashkov
Out of prison.
out of it.
And then they lose him.
Yes, they go to Vegas. So they go to Vegas and meet up with his half-brother, who is batshit crazy. Adrian rocks up too, because Rose stupidly used the credit card he gave her. And Adrian's like, what the fuck? And then Eddie finds out what the whole thing's about as well, because he was just like, look, I trust you, Rose, I'll do it. And he was a bit like, we just broke one of the worst criminals in our society out of prison for a pipe dream. So he was a bit pissed off as well. But then when they decided to get to a more secure location for the night, I guess, Wild Dimitri appears.
Yeah.
And so Eddie and Rose are fighting him and his band of Mary Strigoi. And while Lissa, Adrian, Victor, and Robert run away. And just as Eddie's about to kill Dimitri, Rose blocks that because she doesn't want Dimitri to die. And then security come and that Rose and Eddie get away, and Dimitri kills all of the humans. So Rose kind of just effectively, indirectly killed God knows how many people.
Yeah.
And then Rose and Eddie have an epic fight. Like argument, not punch up. And then when they find Lissa and Adrian, Victor and Robert have gone MIA. They escaped, and they're back next book, and they're really fun next book. I'm excited for that. And yet Eve is the bad influence. Well, she does draw parallels. She's just like, well, yeah, no, I guess I am his daughter. God damn it.
She really is his daughter.
He's one of my favorite characters in this entire series.
Oh yeah, like he's probably my favorite character.
Because that was one thing Adrian, because like earlier on, Rose had said to Adrian, "Oh, what were you and Abe talking about?" And he's just like, "Well, he's more or less threatened to disavow me," and then he commented how nice the weather is. Like it was.
And then she's like, Dad, you can't just threaten to disembowel all my boyfriends. And he's like, no, I would never. It was much worse. And she's like, Dad. And he's like, what? And I meant it too. And she's like, I know.
Honestly, he would be one of the funnest / scariest people to have in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, he is like one of the he just is the quintessential mob boss that will be like, okay, now that my henchmen are done, torturing this guy, I'm going to go out for a nice spot of tea. And it's just nothing. Just like, yes. Well, I guess mobsters don't go have spots of tea.
But he would.
He would. And he'd have his pinky out and everything.
Yeah, with the very colorful scarf.
He wouldn't have tea. He'd drink the Turkish coffee stuff.
Yeah, whatever.
Which is made pretty cool. Have you ever seen a video of Turkish coffee being made?
Mm-hmm.
Where were we?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay, so Victor and Robert have skedaddled. They go and decide to create an alibi for themselves the next day and go to the biggest Maroi hotel in Vegas and get a room there for the night. And while there, because the Moroi, they already know that Victor's escaped, and then they're mentioning, talk about, that poor Lissa girl, why won't they leave Eric's daughter alone? And then someone else is like, oh, well, Eric Dragomir, he loved the ladies, blah, blah, blah. And Rose is like, ugh. And
Everyone's like,
yes,
there's no way. You know what I like about that is how realistic it is. Like, not that people's husbands are cheating assholes, but that there's like stuff about your parents and like other people's parents that like you don't know.
yeah. And especially because they were both so, like, Lissa and Rose were like, what, 15? No, 14, 15 when they died.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they were still so young as well. So, like, you don't learn, there's so many things you don't find out about your parents until, like, you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, well, you're an adult now. You can handle this shit.
Yeah. And so like they just have like this, you know, angelic view, especially because they're dead, of
Yeah.
Liz's parents. And so I like the topic of your parents are people too.
Yeah. And, oh, yes, Eric Dragomir really was a people, we discover, because it's not just idle gossip. But friggin' what? Oh, yeah, so after that, they go back to court. Rose and Eddie are in big, big trouble. They're sneaking off to Vegas with Maroy while Victor Dashkov is loose. And so they get stuck with yard work and filing and whatnot, I guess. And oh, sorry, while they're talking to Victor and Robert, they discover the way to turn a Strigoi back into whatever the hell it was before it became a Strigoi is a spirit user has to charm a silver stake with spirit, and then the spirit user themselves has to stake a Strigoi, the Strigoi, and it will undead them. So,
Right.
yeah. And Liz is like, I can do it, and Rose is like, the hell you fucking will. And they, like, one thing I do like about Lissa in this book is she gets a fucking backbone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it used, like, in previous books, if Rose was like, this is too dangerous for you, Lissa would be like, okay, I trust you. But in the last book, you know, Lissa had to literally fight for her life herself. She had Rose in her head to help her, but she had to do it all herself.
Yeah.
So she's learned that she's not just a passive person. Like, she doesn't have a passive role in her own life. She can take her life into her own hands if she wants to. And she's not going to give that up. She has decided in this book she is going to see if she can save Estragoi, specifically Dimitri, and she wants to do it. I think A, for herself, but B, for Rose, because Rose has given up so much for her, and I think if she can give the love of her life back to her best friend, then she wants to. So Lissa and Rose isn't allowed to see Lissa, and then at some point, because the next bit passes in a bit of a daze, but at some point Rose gets called in for a meeting with the Queen, but it turns out it's kind of like a hearing.
Yeah.
And she has to testify about all of her Strigoi kills.
And she doesn't really know why.
And no one really knows why. It's in reference to a closed session that happened the day before and will be continued in a closed session the next day, but this one was public. And yeah, everyone's just like, I don't know, this is just really confusing, but okay. They think it might be to show that Rose is capable of being Lissa's guardian.
Right.
They're wrong. And because it's Lissa's birthday coming up as well, as a treat, the Queen's arranged for her to tour the university Lissa wants to go to, / have birthday dinner out there. Rose was disinvited because she's in trouble. And so Christian, who has found out about everything that's been going on, is like, take me with you. We'll learn how to stake Strigoi. It'll be fun.
Transparent as fuck. But also they do that. Like, they actually do that.
Yes. And it's one thing I really love, because Lissa's got 2 new guardians. She got 2 new guardians in the last book. After Dimitri went Strigoi and Rose went MIA. So they kind of bust them trying to work it out, and they're like, "Look, we just want to learn how to fight, yo." And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll help you." And Rose is like, "How absolutely dare you?" But she's in Lys's head; she can't actually say anything. And then they're like, "We want to learn how to stake a Strigoi," and they eventually managed to coax them into teaching them. But they're like to prove a point. He's like, just stake this pillow, and Lyssa can't do it. Christian can't do it. And he's just like, it's got too much resistance. They're like, what the fuck do you think your human body is like, you dickhead? If you think a pillow's tough, how are you going to stake a freaking person?
It's a good question.
Yeah. It's very fair, but then they go out for does anything important really happen back at?
I don't think, other than that, no.
Like, I think Rose is. Oh, no, yeah, I don't think really anything.
No, I think the 16-year-old thing happens now, or maybe it happens after they get Dimitri back.
The what thing?
The decree about the 16-year-olds.
Yeah, that happens after.
Then no.
I think Rose's hearing with the Queen thing happened in between that and what happens next. Sorry, I think I did that a bit early. Then they're out for dinner, and when they're on the way back, because Rose is bored, so she's just, chilling out in Lys's head, because what else do you do when you're bored and you have a psychic link to your best friend? You stalk them. And when they're going back to the car, they realize that the street lamp they parked under is out, and then bam, all of these Strigoi appear. They kill the Queen's best friend / the princess of her family. Pretty much all of the guardians there, and then Rose and Christian think Lyssa and Christian think they're about to die. And then Dimitri. Yep, Dimitri, and he's just like, no, you two aren't dying. You're just what I need to bring Rose right to me. I'll see you soon, Rose. I know you're watching. And then Rose is like, oh, fuck. So she bolts upstairs, and one thing I really loved about this is Rose is prepared for a fucking fight. She's like, if I was back at school, they'd know about the bond. They understand it. They get it. They've seen it in action before. I'm going to have a bitch of a time convincing my stupid supervisor that, and they get up there. She gets up there. They already know because one of the guardians didn't actually die. They just thought she was dead, and she called. So they're already prepping, and then she runs into her supervisor, dude Hans, and he's like, hey, you have the bond. Where are they? What's going on? And she's like, what? Like, I just love how Rose was like ready to just start fighting. She's like, no, I have oh, wait, no, you get it.
She's like, no, I have a bond. Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, so she is, now that you ask.
Yeah. So, and ultimately, generally, the thing at the school, it took a bit of convincing to get the rescue going and everything like that, whereas there was no question that there was going to be a rescue. Lyssa was confirmed alive, and because she's the last of her line, she is literally, besides the Queen, she's literally the most important Moroi in Moroi society. Mm-hmm. Because if she dies, then that's one of the 12 royal lines just gone. Yeah. So they're like, yeah, no, we got to go save her. And it's one of because there's also still all of the arguments about whether or not Moroi should fight this or that, but they're willing to just forget the arguments and send Moroi fire users on the mission because, again, Lyssa. So more or less nothing, no lines can be left uncrossed when it comes to rescuing the last of a royal line.
Yeah.
And so they're going, they know that Dimitri knows they're coming. So they're like, okay, let's try and like overwhelming force as opposed to element of surprise. So they screech up straight to the door. They go inside, and yeah, they fight. Like they've broken up into different things because there's different lots of strigoi throughout the building, and so Rose is ultimately in charge of leading them to Lissa. They get there. Fight ensues. Christian burns his and Lissa's ropes so they can break free in the chaos without, and then Rose is prepared to kill Dimitri because he just took her best friend. And just as she's about to actually do it, she gets knocked out of the way by Lissa. And Christian puts a wall of fire around Dimitri so he can't escape. And it turns out Lissa had managed to keep this from Rose. Lissa had successfully charmed a stake and worked out how to use it. And with a lot of effort, a hell of a lot of effort, she manages to stake him.
And now Dimitri is fix-a-doodled.
Yep. After all the lights, yeah. I just imagine if this was made into a movie of a better quality than the first one, like the movie that they
don't talk about it. It didn't happen.
Speaking of which, the guy that played Christian in that played Jace in Shadowhunters, and he looks much better as a blonde. Just saying.
We just don't talk. We don't talk about Vampire Academy in the movie.
But I imagine though, if this was made into a movie or a TV series, there would be that music in this scene.
Oh yeah, like
the way it's described. It's honestly, just like this slow glowing light.
There are things that have happened in Barbie movies that I'm like, it would be perfect. For that scene. Can I help you?
The audiobook doesn't help either because I think from the last one onwards, like when something like spirit related, when something spirit related happens, there's like some background music. Like when the ghosts come, it's like this dark, like music. Same with Strigoi attacks. And with this, there was just this like tinkling music playing, like this angelic, like it kind of sound like it was pretty. It was so pretty, but I'm just like, this is really corny at the same time. But yeah, so Dimitri gets unstrigoid and Liz is just hugging him. He's sobbing. The fight continues amongst everyone else. Team Rose wins though, and they're about to then they try and kill Dimitri, and then Rose, Christian, and Lissa are like, no, and jump in front of him, and then they arrest him and whisk them away, go back to court. He's in jail. Rose is passed out. She goes. She can't get in contact with anyone. She goes back to her room, passes out for like a day. Gets up, and she works out that Lissa has already been to see Dimitri. She goes to try and see Dimitri, but they won't let her in. So then she goes to Lissa's room, wakes her up. And Lissa, she's planning to wake her up, but Lissa's already woken up. So she and out the door. So Rose is like, wait, let's go. We'll see him together. And Lissa's like, Dimitri asked. He didn't just not ask to see you. He specifically asked to not see you. And Rose got really upset.
Well, what's also more irritating is that Dimitri is super grateful to Lissa, and it's like, Rose stomped around Siberia, you asshole.
Yep, she orchestrated a
fucking prison break for you.
Of the guy that she hates most in the world. Lissa did the staking, but Rose laid the steps to get to there.
Well, Lissa staked you, Rose did everything else. You piece of shit. It's just really annoying.
I mean, and he explains, he ends up breaking and explaining why he's being how he's being in the next book.
Isn't it just because he feels super guilty?
Yes. Out of for everything he did when he was in, like, when they were in Siberia.
And like, I get that. But he's still being a douchebag.
I know. But at the same time, though, like, I'm trying to, like, be understanding. Like, it would be a really traumatic thing to come back from.
Oh, for
Like,
sure. But I'm just going to sit here and be upset with Rose.
Yeah. Like, you were a sociopath. Like, I get it. Like, Rose doesn't blame you for what you did when you were a sociopath. Actually, probably the best way to describe how the vampires is, like, the difference between the Moroi and the Strigoi in this would be like with Buffy, like the Strigoi are like vampires, and then the Moroi are more like Angel, where they have, you know, souls. And so, like, in Buffy, when Angel gets his soul back, he's just fucking tormented by everything he did, even though he's not in control of himself when he did the bad shit. And that's pretty much what Dimitri is going through now. He's feeling guilty over things that he doesn't need to be feeling guilty over, because while he did them, he didn't do them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. And so it's just sad.
It is.
But it's also like the way that Lissa acts, because like you get why she acts that way, but it's kind of infuriating.
Yeah, like, she's effectively become Dimitri's mama bear. She claw out anyone's eyes that tries to hurt her baby, who is Dimitri. Dimitri's now her baby. And that's kind of the protective, like, it sounds like I'm kidding, but that's actually how it's described, like, her feelings towards Dimitri. She's that level of protective over him.
And when she is acting that way, and then Rose is going through that, like, there's no way for Lissa to actually be like a good friend to Rose and support her.
And I think in this, Lissa is giving Rose a bit too much credit again, because while Lissa knows how tormented, like, how much this would be hurting Rose and everything, she's like, well, one, my priority right now is Dimitri, because he's literally broken and they still want to kill him, which makes sense. But then I think also she just thinks that Rose was strong enough to get through everything that happened in Siberia. She'll get through this too. Like, that's not ever explicitly stated, but I think that's what she's thinking as well.
Yeah. And so, like, she's just not, like, at all there. Like, there's just, like, nobody there for her, and, like, you feel it.
Because also, Rose is also heavily conflicted as well, because she's with Adrian now, and she's happy with Adrian, but she's in love with Dimitri, and it's just, like, this big clusterfuck of conflicting emotions. And so, like, what's she going to do as well? Like, the only other person that's actually there for her is Adrian, and she can't really go and talk to Adrian about it.
Yeah, and she can't. But
like, what are you going to do? Hello, boyfriend. The love of my life won't talk to me.
Right. But the other thing, too, is, like, it makes sense that, so, like, her and Adrian kind of break up, but then they get back together at the end of the book. They have sex and everything.
No, they don't have sex. Because it was not sex.
They don't. Sorry, they have not sex. But they would have. I'm guessing that they don't, just so that, like, Rose doesn't have to feel bad about it later.
Well, that said, though, she actually did something much more taboo than sex with Adrian. She because they're about, like, again, this happens later, so we'll skip back in a minute. But, they're about to have sex. He's literally about to, and she's like, do you have a condom? And he's like, in my room on the other side of court. And she's like, well, suck my blood instead, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, so Rose kind of effectively blood whores herself out to her boyfriend. So that happened. But before that, though, Rose ends up going in Lissa's head when she goes to visit Dimitri, and Lissa is like, A, how are you type thing, and B, will you see Rose? And he's like, no, I will see literally anyone except her. And so that kind of broke Rose's heart a bit as well. And then Adrian's like, hey, Rose, let's go to a party. And she's like, a bunch of people just died. Like, is it really party time? He's like, well, it's not really a party. It's like an elite gathering. Like, and she's like, okay. So they go to this thing. They have to wear masks. So Adrian sneaks Rose in, and it's literally like the elite of the elite royals. Except for, the other people Adrian snuck in as well. And it's kind of like this weird cultish we honor them ceremony where they pay homage to the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rose gets busted being there. And the queen comes over and she's like, Rose, it's not really appropriate for you to be here. I mean, I guess it's a good thing that you're here. You got to see that we actually do give a fuck. And you've been doing very well lately. I'm pretty pleased with you. But I think it's time that you should go now, so everyone thinks that you've been properly scolded, and let's not speak of this again. And Rose is like, so like that's pretty much that. And then the next day, I don't know if Rose just stumbled across it or if someone told her or something, but she's like, everyone has to get to the town, like the court meeting hall place now. Like a kind of picture of like a church without the church stuff. That's how I picture the room. Like lots of just pews and a stage thing.
Yeah.
With a thing. And ultimately they they find out there that what Rose's testimony was actually for was to prove that under 18s are capable of killing Strigoi and hunting them. And so now people will graduate when they're 16 instead of 18.
Right.
And I think part of it is how the narrator said it, because Rose gets up and she starts arguing with the queen about it in the middle of the thing, and she's like, how could you do this? You owe it to us. You owe us those 2 years. Like we're dying for you guys to survive. Like you owe us 2 more years of teenage fun before you send us off to die effectively.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's done. It can't be undone, as is our law. And I think part of it is just, again, how the narrator said it, but Rose's response is, that is the most fucked up law I've ever heard. And I think that's probably my favorite book quote of all time, just because of the context as well. Like, because it's exactly what you would expect Rose to say in that situation.
It was great. And then she calls the queen a sanctimonious bitch.
Yeah, and gets hauled out of there for threatening us. She's just like, you're going to regret this. And
like,
well,
Rose keeps saying that to people, like, and she needs to stop it.
Well, she kind of, I think she learned her lesson by the end of this book.
I think she does too.
Don't publicly threaten the queen. But then immediately after that, Dimitri is being interrogated in the sun. I guess because they still don't know what he is, and they're like, well, Stragoy's burned up in the sun, so like let's interrogate him out there then. And they're asking him a whole bunch of stupid questions, like, have you noticed that your eyes have been red?
And he was like, no.
He's like, well, I don't have a mirror, but no one's mentioned my eyes being red anymore, and this and that, and then after a bit, they invite questions from the surrounding crowd, and Rose asks a couple of questions. So they're actually like not like, why won't you talk to me? It was more like, you're literally only just freshly been unstragoid, so you know shit. Will you share information? And he's like, of course I will. And this little kid runs up, I think about 4, and he runs over and he's just like, I have questions. And his mother's like dying, and Rose picks him up and she's like, okay. And like, then this boy's just like, why don't you have horns? And asking all of these like kid-like questions, and it was cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
And the interaction between Rose and Dimitri there was really sweet as well, because then Rose is just like egging this kid on, and she's just like, well, what else do you know about Strigoi? And he's like, they have fangs like us, and because he was a Moroi. And she's like, do you have fangs? And Dimitri's like, no, I don't.
He's like, no, I do not. And she's like, okay then.
And then the little boy's just like, are you super strong? And he's like, oh, I'm about as strong as any other Dampier. And Rose is like, go punch him and see how strong he is. So this little kid just runs up and punches him in the gut, and he pretends to fall over. It's really cute.
Yeah,
I like that
really cute. And then he goes back to being a twat.
Yeah, so then like they're like, okay, well that's the questioning for today. And he's just like, okay, no more Rose attention now. And Rose is like, but why? And she starts yelling at him. And Lyssa starts yelling at Rose in her head, and she's just like, yeah, Lyssa's like, look, you just helped, thank you, but now you're making it worse, because like you're making him angry in public, which Lyssa does have a point there.
She does.
I understand where Rose is coming from and why Rose is so upset and why she's taking any opportunity to speak to him. But also,
like every time she did it, I wanted her to stop.
Yeah. And
I was like, stop doing it.
But then as soon as Lyssa comes in with the logic as well, like, look, you helped, you did, but now you're making it worse. You're also just like, shut up, Lyssa. This isn't about you.
Yeah, you're also just like, Lyssa, go fuck yourself.
So it's conflicting, like very conflicting emotions. But Rose is like, okay, fine, I get the point, but I hate you. And she storms off.
I also do like, though, that like Richelle as an author is smart enough to not really give Lyssa the support role in this book. If that makes sense. Like, because I don't know how, because I haven't read the 6th book yet, but I'm assuming that her and Lyssa have to reconcile over this whole thing.
Well, they don't actually really even get into much of an, like, when Lyssa and Rosa are interacting in this book about not Dimitri, like, they're still fine.
Yeah.
So, like, they don't actually have it, because, Rose understands where Lyssa's coming from. She's just hurt at the same time. But I don't think Rose holds it against Lyssa except for in the moment. If that makes sense. Like, she gets pissed off when Lyssa does it, but, like, she gets it as well. But, Lyssa hella makes it up to Rose, though, after, like, in, like, the beginning of the next book. She really makes it up to her. But immediately after that, Adrian's mum invites Rose to a party, and Rose is like, yeah, sure, I'll meet Adrian at your place at 7. And then Rose meets a guy that looks vaguely familiar. It's one of Abe's bodyguards, and he gives her a laptop with a series of instructions, and he's like, take this and go. And Rose is like, okay. She reads it, and she's like, okay, I have to set this shit up. I'm going to have a voice, like, video chat. And it's Sydney, the alchemist from the last book. And she wanted to know if Rose had stolen alchemist files on Lyssa's dad. And
is this set up bloodlines?
No. This is setting up the plot for the next book.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much everything that happened after Dimitri got unstragoid is setting up the plot for the next book.
Although that made more sense, because then, like, later it was like, you need to find like the second to last dragon, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, ooh, scandalous.
I do enjoy the next book. The next book's kind of fun because we go on another adventure outside of, everything.
Yeah.
Which is always fun.
Real quick, the love triangle is not pointless in this book. Like, because honestly, like at least in this book, you're more or less like you're as conflicted as Rose is. Like you're not because but you're not like, why are you going? You're like, yeah, go to Adrian. Fuck this bullshit. Like,
yeah,
like when it happens, you're totally on her side.
And also, it sets up like because Adrian is in Bloodlines. He's a major character in Bloodlines, and like it's not just like oh well that didn't work out. Like it creates a conflict for him as a main character in the next series as well. So like she handles it well because again, it's not just done for the sake of hello two guys that I've barely known for half a moment. I am in love with both of you. However, will I choose?
Yeah, no, it's super complicated and
it's got all the nuance. Like if this was a real life, like if this was a possible real life scenario where your boyfriend gets turned into something and you try and move on and then he's trying to kill you, but then he gets saved and shit like that. It's written in a believable way for that scenario.
Also because Adrian and Rose have known each other for almost a year now. And she's known Dimitri for almost as long.
No, she's known Dimitri for a year or a couple months shy of a year. She's known Adrian for about 6 months.
Yeah, so like she's known Adrian like a little less than she's known Dimitri. But it's like the timeline isn't unreasonable because when you consider how long she's even known Dimitri, it's more traumatic than anything because she hasn't known him all that long in comparison with how long she's known Adrian.
Yeah, and then there's also the whole boarding school scenario where things are accelerated and
so it's all very believable and it serves a massive purpose, especially when Rose doesn't have a lot of support from a lot of the other characters. And like I said, it's believable, especially to a point where even if you're like Team Dimitri, you're still like when it's happening, not like how dare you.
No, like even like reading the series, you know that Rose and Dimitri are like Dimitri is the one for Rose, but Adrian isn't some pesky getting in the way character. Like he's a very likable character. Like generally when there's a love triangle, like you're firmly on the side of one or the other. Whereas this one is like I like Adrian. He's fun.
Like, you're firmly on the side of like Dimitri and Rose because like you get it, but you're not like anti-Adrian in any kind of way.
No, you're just like I wish that Dimitri wasn't a person so Adrian could be happy.
Yeah,
but Dimitri and Rose should be together.
Exactly. So it's like. But also, it's complicated, and like the characters are complex and deep enough that it doesn't make it it makes it just not annoying at all.
Yeah,
and it's that's a love triangle without triangle.
It's a love triangle without the a love triangle angst.
Yeah, which is the right way to do it.
Yeah,
you can do love triangles. You just have to do them right.
Like, and don't go into love pentagrams.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, don't do love pentagrams.
Okay. Yeah, we've got enough of that in our other series.
Yep.
So, after her conversation with Sydney, Rose falls asleep and she wakes up to a knock at the door and it's Adrian and he's like, you literally just didn't show. And he's upset and Rose feels bad and then she invites him in and then the almost sex / blood.
Well, that's when they break up because he's like, you're literally like, he's like, I understand why, but you're obsessed with Dimitri. And if that's the case, then like, you know.
And I think part of it was just Rose just needed someone like, and she was thinking about it the next day as well. She's like, I did what I did with Adrian for the wrong reasons. I did it because I was upset with Dimitri and about the whole situation. But Rose is like, no, I want you. I want to be with you. And then they almost sex.
Mm-hmm.
Slash, you know, naughty stuff. And
Yeah.
then it's the next morning. She goes out. She's like, I'm going to go and get a croissant type thing. You know, she goes in there. Dimitri's in there as well. He's surrounded by 5 guards or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But they're effectively just like I guess is safe enough type thing. And yeah, so he's just sitting there reading his book, eating his breakfast, and then she goes over to start talking to him. I guess because she's a Dimitri addict. She can't help herself.
No, she's talking to the Guardians.
Oh, is she talking to them?
Yeah, because the Guardians are talking to her.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they're like, are you going to go to the council today or blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, I guess. And then they're like, and she's like, but I'm going to be more polite. And they're like, why would you do that? And then Dimitri's like, about what? And then they're like, she's like, did nobody tell you? Because
that's right.
She just like answers without thinking. And then they start talking. So she was behaving herself. She was like, no.
That's right. I forgot about that bit.
I'm not going to talk to him. And I was like, yeah, fuck him. Except don't. But you know what I mean. Anyway. And so.
Yeah. But then Guardians that are part of the Queen's Guard appear.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're under arrest. And she's like, but he didn't do anything. And they're like, no, not him, you. And she's like,
but I didn't do anything. She's like, yelling? How ridiculous. Don't sit on my paw. Thank you.
And then Dimitri, like, because Dimitri by this point as well has said to her, like, love fades, mine has. I don't love you. I'm not capable of loving you. Just leave me alone. But then he goes into, like, when they're coming to arrest her, he just goes fucking kung fu on their asses and throws chairs at them and starts beating the shit out of everyone he can. And Rose starts jumping into it as well. And then what Liz has said to her the other day clicks. And she's like, no, they're just starting to trust him. They're letting him out of his jail cell. I can't do this to him. And she's like, no, fine, I'll go. And they're like, you're under arrest for the murder of Queen Tatiana. And she's like,
and then she's like, wait, no, I won't go. But that's not what happens. So she goes.
And she's just confused and they're like, what the fuck? So she jumps into Lissa's head to see if Lissa knows anything. And Lissa doesn't know anything. And she's like, I don't know what's happened. All I know is the Queen's dead. Rose has been arrested. I'm confused. Christian's there. Adrian's there. Tasha's there. Adrian's mum comes along and it's just like this big kerfuffle. And they're like, well, Rose has no alibi. And Adrian's like, I was with her all night. And Mother's like, you had sex with her? Not the time. What time was this? And so then there's all that logistics talk. And by this stage, we know that Tatiana was found with a stake in her chest.
Yeah. And then so after that, we have a hearing. And before that, Adrian convinced his mom to let Rose use like their family lawyer, basically. And but just as the hearing starts, Abe saunters in like, hey, I don't know who this guy is, but I am her lawyer, her Lord and Savior, whichever you so choose, whichever you fancy.
But I just love it. He's just like, Rose, I'm not going to leave you to whatever community lawyer they let you. And he's like, excuse me, I am the most renowned Maroi lawyer in this country. And he's
community.
Just like, renowned community.
Yeah. He's like, what are you going to do? Anyway. And so she was like, And so Rose is like looking between them and she's like, Dad or renowned community, what are you going to do? Dad or renowned community, what are you going to do? And then she was like, let's take
Dad.
a chance on Dad. And so she does. And you're like, yeah, Rose, let's take a chance on Dad. And it's really cute. So she takes a chance on Dad. And
it doesn't go well. It's not Abe's fault. It's not his fault. He tried. He did his best. But turns out the stake that was in Tatiana's chest was the stake that Rose staked Dimitri with, and then he mailed her and she kept.
Well, something that I loved, though, was her argument, because Rose did actually speak for herself. She was like, first of all, if I were going to kill somebody, do you really think she's like, so, because the lawyer makes the argument like, Rose is smart. She can get in and out of places. She can do this. She can do that. Like, look at all the stuff she's done. And then Rose is like, so your argument is that I'm super smart, right? So if I was this smart, you really think I'd leave my stake lying around in somebody's chest, you idiot? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
That's insulting.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, the thing that made me laugh the most was she's like, I'm actually really insulted that you think I'm this stupid.
I know, but I was like, bitch has a point, though. Like, I'm insulted for her.
Take a stake out, you know?
She's like, I'd at least take it out. Like, what the hell? Like, you think I just leave my steak lying around? And I was like, are we not going to talk about that? And they're all like, shut up, Rose. And I was like,
no. And one thing that because also Adrian remembered seeing a janitor when he went into Rose's building, and the janitor has effectively done an affidavit stating that Adrian got there after the time of the murder window.
Which we actually don't know if he's lying or not, but
we find out next book whether or not he is.
Is he?
He doesn't remember what time he saw Adrian.
Yeah, I figured. I was like, I don't think he knows.
He got paid to lie.
Because Abe is like, wasn't 9:20 weirdly specific? And I was like, yeah, it is, Abe. Sorry. Yeah. I love him.
I will say, though, in the next, like, the first time I read this, like, the next book, I was so stunned when the actual murderer was revealed. She did it so well.
I'm excited.
It's like, I didn't see it coming. Like, rereading it, I can see the signs and everything, but because that's one thing we haven't that is the most fucked up law I've ever heard. It wasn't about the age law. It was about Lissa not being allowed to vote.
Oh yeah, that's right. Lissa can't vote because she's the last. So like, there's a law that says to be like a royal family on the council, you have to have 2 people in your line. So Lissa can't vote to do the age law. And so Rose is at some point talking to Ambrose, because this is also important. And she's like, it's like really fucked up. And then Ambrose is like, no, the queen wouldn't. And then there's got to be a reason. And then Rose is like, what the fuck, bro? And then she's like, but if Ambrose is really doing the queen, maybe he knows something I don't. And so Ambrose is like, look, I'm going to ask her. And then they actually Rose is just like, okay, look, we both clearly feel different about her because of reasons. And so we're just going to let it go and it's going to be fine. And then it was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, I liked that scene.
Yeah.
And then after the trial, Ambrose hands her a note from Tatiana.
Yes, and so then Rose gets led back to her cell. Oh no, sorry. No, she read it in the courtroom. She opened it because he came as Rose was walking past him after they were like, no, we've got enough evidence to go to trial. Rose is being let out, and yeah, she gets a note handed to her by Ambrose, and it's just like, Rose, if you're reading this, something bad's happened to me, and yeah, I'm sorry about that whole age law thing, but it was better than the alternative. There was a push to, force every Dampier in the world to be guardians, and I think that alternative is worse. So I did this to shut them up. But Lissa isn't the last Dragomir. Her dad had an illegitimate child. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, how old they are, anything. But I trust that you can figure it out. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And then Rose is like, oh, I what the, like, she barely gets time to process it. And then Abe's like, what's that? And she's like, oh, nothing. And then they're talking, and Rose is like, well, I don't want to go to jail for the rest of my life. And he's like, they don't jail traitors. Like, and she's like, well, what do they do then? He's like, they execute them. And then the book ends.
Yep. That's where it ends.
But, like, again, it's just, like, because I reread this earlier this year, I didn't have this moment with, like, this time reading it, but in the, like, when I read it last time, yeah, I will say, like, after Dimitri got, unstragoid, I looked at time remaining, and I'm like, how is there still so much more book? I was expecting that to be at least, at most 2 chapters from the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually, now thinking about it, I think that happens about halfway.
Yeah. But it works.
Yeah, and
honestly, it's nice that she doesn't just spend all that time on it, because we've already spent a lot of time
Dimitri
on Dimitri angst.
Yeah. And honestly, the next book is chock full of Dimitri angst.
Oh, yeah.
Chock full. But yeah, so next book, the quest will be who is the real murderer / other side plots. But yeah, no, it's I'm looking forward to the next book, because again, like I said, half this book is set up for the next book, so it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah,
we get to meet some crazy people next book. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't rate it.
Oh.
Badass. Rating?
I'm going to go with pizza.
I'm going to go with Old Gold Peppermint, which is dark chocolate with peppermint cream inside.
Yeah, that was badass.
Because it kind of fits the theme of the book well. Because it's a bit dark, a bit light, a bit yum, a bit not. But yeah, so that was Spiritbound. This was probably, like, out of all of the Vampire Academy books, and it's kind of like Mercy Thompson, where even the bad ones aren't bad. But I think
it was my least favorite.
Yeah, I think this one's my least favorite, as you can tell by the fact that most of our other Vampire Academy streams have gone on for like 2 to 3 times this amount of time.
And we're just like, anyway. Yeah, there's not like a whole lot to say.
Yeah, I think like the plot speaks for itself in this one. Like, it doesn't really need much elaboration.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one it did introduce an interesting thing, because in the previous books, when Lissa, like when Rose shoves her feelings aside for Lissa or whatever, like I'm frustrated with Rose. I'm not frustrated with Lissa. It's not Lissa's fault. But in this one, like, I think it's the first time I've actually just been like, what the fuck, Lissa?
Yeah.
Like, I get you, but shut up.
Yeah, but also, like, it doesn't make you dislike Lissa as a character, which is, I think, good.
Yeah, because also, like, and one thing as well is, like, Lissa has never even had, she knows how much Rose hates the Queen, but not once for a single second does she even doubt that Rose is innocent.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. if someone that Stixie had access, like could have potentially had access to or had the capabilities to gain access to, that he loathed and publicly threatened 2 days beforehand and everything like that, if they wound up dead and he was a suspect, if he said he didn't do it, I'd believe him, but part of me, my brain would be like, are you sure? Yeah, it's a normal thing. It's a normal thing to just have like that one little tiny % of your brain to just go, but are you sure?
Yeah.
Liz's brain doesn't have that part when it comes to Rose, apparently, and I like that.
I like it too.
But yeah, so I think that's the book.
Yeah. And then we're going to be doing next week Kelowna's Fall and then Redeemed.
Yes, so we'll officially be finished with season 1 of House of Night next week.
Yep.
And then we have another Vampire Academy. The last one. Last Sacrifice.
Yeah, so we're finishing 2.
Yep. And then we're starting sequel series.
Yeah. All at
to
once.
Both. Yay.
Yay. So that's what we're doing. And
yes.
Yeah. And I think that's it. So
bye.
Bye. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know. I'm like, I don't